Hello, I'm Dr. Tamara Camo, and I am here to discuss with you today things that affect your desire and ideas on how to fix them. So, as we know, there are different times in our life that being romantic can be challenging, and there are many things that contribute to that. How our relationship is going, if our hormones are declining. Maybe we're on medications that influence our sex drive. Lots of people on antidepressants complain of diminished sex drive. For sure, if people are on birth control pills and ovulation is suppressed, that might be an issue. Going through menopause and having dryness everywhere can be an issue. Stress with our job, past trauma, medical problems. For example, people who are diabetic often have nerve issues. So if they're having pain with their nerves or feeling numbness, nerves are an important part of sensation and how we feel and how we respond. So we want to sort of explore and troubleshoot some different ways to help with some of these issues. So with my patients, one of the first things I ask and try to address is there discomfort when you have intercourse? I can give you the best sex drive in the whole wide world, but if it hurts or is very uncomfortable, we have a problem. And we want to fix this problem before we address anything else. And sometimes when you don't have the fear of pain, that sort of frees you to enjoy things anyway, and no further intervention is necessary. But in the course of my practice, I can prescribe an estrogen cream, I can prescribe a DHEA suppository, and that's great for some people, but some people want to stimulate lubrication naturally. So fennel is something that I have seen studies on for urogenital health. I've seen some creams studied with fennel, but of course at home someone could try to use fennel and use a carrier oil and try to make something happen with some moisture down there. And also oral DHEA has been studied for comfort, and I'll point out a study soon. So in general, one of the issues with dryness is that our estrogen might be declining. It starts to decline in our 40s, and for sure by the time we're in our 50s, we can tell that it's low. And there are a few essential oils that have been associated with helping the body produce a small amount of estrogen. So in one study, they took several essential oils and did salivary estrogen testing and decided that rose and geranium actually did provoke estrogen. There's another study that I posted here that showed fennel and anise as estrogenic agents. So using rose, maybe you want to diffuse geranium, diffuse fennel, use them in a massage. There's just lots of ways you can incorporate these into your daily life to help you with estrogen. Rose and geranium happen to be very good for skin health, so maybe you could add them to a skin cream and use them on your problem areas just as a matter of routine. But for sure, when you want to get in the mood, diffusing rose or geranium or fennel could also be helpful. I previously mentioned DHEA, and men and women naturally create this in their bodies. It's one of the most abundant hormones in the body. The adrenal glands produce it. We start to lose it around age 30, but this is an over-the-counter supplement that we can use to give our body precursors to have access to the ability to make estrogen and testosterone, and also help boost our adrenal health. Also, as we're under a lot of stress and produce a lot of cortisol in our lives, DHEA can just get used up and be diminished. So later on, as we age, this could be an issue with having sexual function. In 2019, they actually gave premenopausal women oral DHEA and decided that it did help with sexual function. Here I list a dose of 25 milligrams. They gave it 3 times a day, but people are different and some people might respond to a smaller dose. As I said, DHEA can help with testosterone. What does testosterone do? As we know, just for an example, men and women have different sex drives. One of the big drivers to this is men have tons of testosterone. Women have a smaller amount of testosterone. We have a sex drive, it's just not as dramatic in general. But as women age, we started with a small amount relative to men. We have probably 1/10 of the testosterone they have to begin with. And then as we age and as this diminishes, sometimes our sex drive can go with it, as can our muscle tone, also our mood. When you have a lot of testosterone, you're very aggressive and very brave and very outgoing. As you lose this, you can notice some personality differences. Testosterone is important for energy. As it declines, you can notice you don't have the energy to have sex. Testosterone also increases bone density. Men don't have the rates of osteoporosis that women do. So testosterone does a lot of things. It declines as we age in both sexes, but because women start with a much smaller amount, this can definitely show up in the lack of sex drive. So what are some of the things that we can do to help with testosterone? There are herbs that have been studied for testosterone improvement, like tribulus, like horny goat. And there's also essential oils. I've seen studies on pine pollen and testosterone, and Idaho blue spruce and testosterone. So there are herbs and oils we can use to naturally boost. So the next hormone I want to discuss is oxytocin. Oxytocin is a hormone that some of you have heard of if you're female. Maybe you went to the hospital and you were in labor and the doctor decided to give you something to help you go into labor or to speed up your labor. That was oxytocin. They might have called it pitocin, but anyway, oxytocin is the hormone we most often associate with labor. But another thing it helps us do is breastfeed. Oxytocin helps milk let down. But another thing it helps us do is bond. We bond with the baby. So oxytocin has a lot to do with our emotions and bonding. And bonding is sort of a romantic feeling. Women with higher oxytocin have a different bond to men and moods and sex than maybe somebody with low oxytocin. The higher our oxytocin, the less cortisol affects us because it's a hormone that, when it's in our system, balances cortisol. It just doesn't let it get hold to us and make us react the same. So oxytocin is very important for sex drive and mostly orgasm. So one of the essential oils that I find helpful with oxytocin is jasmine. So that is one of the oils that, when studied, improved the amount of oxytocin in saliva. Another important essential oil is clary sage. Now, many of the studies I've seen on clary sage were of women in labor. As I mentioned, it boosts oxytocin, and that's what is important for labor. But they have studied clary sage for women in labor. Another essential oil is sandalwood and ylang ylang are things that have been noticed to help. So boosting oxytocin can help with stress. As I mentioned before, they exist, the higher your cortisol goes, it diminishes your oxytocin, but the higher the oxytocin goes, it diminishes your cortisol. They occupy similar receptor sites, so it's very difficult for both of them to be operating simultaneously. So, boosting oxytocin is very important in the management of stress. And as we know, sometimes when people are very stressed, well, they do want to have sex because it's a stress reliever, but sometimes people don't want to have sex because they feel so overwhelmed that they just don't focus on that. Also, in one study in 2020, it was found that the aroma of certain essential oils may elicit the increased secretion of oxytocin, specifically jasmine, which I already mentioned, clary sage, which I already mentioned, sandalwood, lavender, neroli, and Roman chamomile. So there are, in addition to my favorites, clary sage and jasmine, there are other oils that can provoke that phenomenon. So the next thing I want to talk about is fatigue and sleep and their impact on sex drive. So sometimes people are so tired and so chronically sleep deprived that when they see the bed, their only purpose for the bed is sleep and nothing else. So getting quality restorative sleep is very important in sex drive. So melatonin can improve sleep quality. We have studies that it improves REM sleep. Progesterone can improve sleep quality. It is very relaxing and can relax you enough to go to sleep. Oxytocin can improve sleep quality. We discussed the role of oxytocin in stress. Sometimes when people are very stressed, they're thinking so much that they can't really get to sleep. And oxytocin can have a role in that. And CBD can improve sleep quality. When people are inflamed or in pain, this can impair their sleep. So, and sometimes people have all of these things going on and need multiple things to help them sleep. But there are essential oils also that can improve sleep quality, like lavender and valerian. Here is a study about melatonin and how it can help with libido. So in the year 2000, they have, well, they did this study on animals. It's an animal study on rams, but they gave them melatonin and watched how their testosterone level changed. And they watched their sexual behavior. So this shows that melatonin has more influences on your body than just sleep. There's also a study here on lavender, sleep, and sexual desire. This study was in 2019, but it showed that it helped with sleep, sexual desire, and mood symptoms, and many other things. That was published in the Journal of Menopausal Medicine. So, how can you use some of these oils? Well, think about putting some of the oils I've already discussed in a bath. Rose, we discussed estrogenic effects. ylang ylang, oxytocin effect, neroli, and jasmine, all oxytocin, all very relaxing, all that can help you with some of the hormones that might be diminished and causing a problem with your sex drive. And plus, just having a bath while you're clean, you're going to get in the bed, might help you sleep better. We discussed how, oxytocin and boosting that can help you have a more relaxing and peaceful sleep, which then tomorrow night, when it's time for you to do something besides sleep, you feel refreshed. So let me do a quick summary of the hormones involved in sexual function. We discussed testosterone. Estrogen can impact the dryness of your vagina, so can DHEA. Low progesterone. Progesterone has a lot to do with the elasticity of your skin, so that can change the formation of your vagina. It could be too stiff or not, just changes the whole tightness of your vagina. Oxytocin can have an influence on your orgasm, and being too tired or too stressed can definitely have issues. And I discussed all of those in my book. So, some of the oils that also help: orange, grapefruit, peppermint, nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon. They smell like food. Sometimes things that smell like delicious food just help the whole experience. In one study, and again an animal study, but they gave them a dose of vanillin, which is in vanilla, and that had aphrodisiac properties. The rats had different behavior after they smelled vanilla. So how would you use essential oils? You could diffuse them. Diffusing aphrodisiac oils sends signals to the brain to help relax and to help with setting the scene, and it stimulates parts of the brain that get us in the mood. Choose your favorite oil. I suggested many. There is no right or wrong. Blending them even better if you want to hedge all your bets. You can apply them topically. Always spot test. Try to dilute them before, if you're new to oils, but give someone a massage on their back. Give them a foot massage. Give them a neck rub. But use the oils on your hand when you're doing that. You can also take some of them internally if you find a company that has oils labeled for internal use. But orange oil, there's different oils that you can add to what you're doing. So in my book, there are many ideas, different oil blends that you can use that might combine some of the oils that I discussed for some different issues. Like there's recipes for low estrogen and how to use them to increase lubrication. There's a chapter on low testosterone, and that might help with desire. Low progesterone, fixing that could help with relaxation, but also skin health. Oxytocin, orgasm, and adrenal fatigue and lack of sleep. All of those things have something to do with sex drive. That's why many people have tried one thing and haven't found one thing that reliably works, because sometimes you have two or three things going on simultaneously, and if you don't address both of those things, like I can fix your vaginal dryness and not your lack of sleep, and you're still too tired to have sex. Or I can fix your orgasm, but it hurts. Well, you're not going to even have sex to have the orgasm. So sometimes you have to dig deeper and think more. But sexual vitality is something that can be maintained with age with some troubleshooting. And last but not least, I'm going to spend 1 minute on CBD oil. If you want extensive information on CBD oil, Dr. Ollie Winker has written a book about it, and that is a great resource. But in general, your entire body is full of endocannabinoid receptors. They are your pleasure receptors. That's why when people smoke marijuana, which activates those receptors, they feel a certain way. It pain relieving, it is pleasure inducing. However, one can get CBD and activate those receptors without getting the high of marijuana. So there has been a study, and in Psychology Today, they polled women, and what they found was that when given CBD, 67% of the women reported that they believed that it helped their sex drive. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. Again, I am Dr. Tamara Como. I'd love for you to grab a copy of my book. It's available at Growing Healthy Homes.